May I please have your full and undivided attention? It is time for the Paranormal Rundown. Hello, this is Cedric Dagwell Smythe. I'd like to welcome all fans of the paranormal, the unusual, the slightly off-kilter, the frightening, the terrifying, the horrifying, and simply the occasionally entertaining. This is the Paranormal Rundown. There's no place else like it. The topic list is now at 2,410 topics strong. Or weak, I suppose, depending upon your point of view. I'm going to let Avalon give you the list of topics tonight. Get ready. It'll be a hell of a ride.
Hello, as always, this is Avalon Leanne Dagwaff Smythe. Tonight, the gang of nerds will be discussing, among other things, lost books of the Bible, the Book of Q, why Father Birdsong is the King of Protestantism, the Book of Tobit, various Gnostic Texts, Flayed Demon Dreams, Tarot Cards, Konxari Cards, Psychic Readings, why, and I quote, why everybody got a Greegree, Goofer Dust, the possibility of a spiritual immune system, the origin of the Cheshire Cat, and demonic points of attachment. Wow, believe it or not, all of the core members of the gang of nerds are married, and they have not yet been poisoned. Miracles must be real.
Well, welcome everyone to the Paranormal Rundown. I am Father Mike Birdsong, and tonight, of course, we are always joined with the one and all famous Victor and, David Griffith and JJ Johnson. And, of course, my beloved son, Deacon Joshua Birdsong. And we welcome you this week. And I hope that we can inspire you. And as always, please, if you have anything that you would like to ask questions on, please feel free to email us. And we will ensure that the email address is put up because I can't remember it right now.
Feedback at paranormalrundown.com.
There you go. But at any rate, let's get into these subjects, and feel free to follow us down any rabbit hole that Alice may lead us down. So let's get it going.
Okay. We have an initial set of topics. I think they're pretty good topics, but I'll let the other members of the gang of nerds verify that. So you realize now we are, according to Avalon, Gang of Nerds Media, which makes it easier for us to do.
And I do not want to upset Avalon.
I do not want to upset Avalon.
I like sleeping, and I just, yeah. Good choice, Avalon. We're happy.
Okay.
I've got a few bones to pick with her, but we'll take that offline.
You have fun with that.
Let's go right on, JJ. JJ will show up like,
at the next episode, be like, I haven't slept in 2 weeks.
Okay. The first listing of Paranormal Rundown topics out of the current number of 2,360. Got to be the biggest paranormal topic list in the world. If someone's got a bigger one, let me know, please.
Well, see, you got stressed out over just having 1,600 not too long ago. and you were told that, see, you said, I don't know if we'll get beyond this, but for some reason,
he said he was done. He said he was done making topics.
You guys are correct.
Some guy by the name of Mr. Griffith, I don't know who that is, but he said, oh, no, he'll be hitting 2,000 before long. And now we've grown before, good grief.
Obsession is a very harsh master, I'm telling you. It really
I
is.
wouldn't know anything about that.
Okay, topic number 1, tarot cards and other similar items. Number 2, thought images from brainwaves. Number 3, lost books of the Bible. Number 4, Bloody Mary. Number 5, the SCP Foundation. And number 6, Home and other really good X-Files episodes.
Well, I think we've done Bloody Mary before.
Have we?
I think so because
I remember doing
It's
Bloody
come
Mary.
up as part of
It's
another
come up-
topic.
okay.
Not-
Might have
come up
not-
as
it
part
was
of
It
another
was
topic.
a tangent, right? It was a
okay,
rabbit hole.
okay.
Yeah, there is mixing in the paranormal world. Mixing, yes. Crying, no. No crying.
Well, I like lost books of the Bible. I like Bloody Mary.
Okay. Well, JJ, oftentimes we'll get one of these biblical topics, and you can really get us off on the rocket start. So
Let's go for it.
Let's talk
Lost
about those
books.
lost books.
So there's a lot of different things that you could talk about when it comes to this particular topic, because it really depends on exactly what the person is referring to. Is it the Apocrypha, which is still considered holy to Catholics and Orthodoxes, but not to Protestants? Is it the Pseudepigrapha, or directly translated from Latin, false epitaph, which are the collection of writings that happen between the Hebrew Bible and the Christian New Testament that include such, major works as First Enoch, Jubilees, Ascension of Isaiah, Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, etc. Or could it be from the New Testament? I think probably the most famous lost, quote-unquote, book of the Bible is the Book of Q, which is supposed to be the original source material from which Matthew, Mark, and Luke derived their works from, and helps to explain a lot of the similarity between them. Now, Book of Q is entirely hypothetical, but the similarities between those three Gospels definitely seem to point to an original source from which they are derived. So it's most certainly not baseless conjecture. It's kind of like going back to Semitic philology. A lot of these languages have such similarities to them that you can then trace down those evolutions and get to a hypothetical source language that they all kind of derived from. But yet we don't know what that is. Did you have a particular direction in mind, Vic, when you included that particular one?
Well, no, JJ, it's really just kind of one of those little thought fantasies that go through my head all the time. I remember there was and I cannot find which movie this was, but it must have been about 1990 or so. There was a movie that came out, and it was a movie about a conflict within the Catholic Church. Because by going through old archives and whatever, they had found an additional gospel. I mean, I know they're all... What's that?
That was the movie Stigmata.
That was the movie Stigmata?
Yeah, where the guys found the lost
the Gospel
book
of Thomas.
Thomas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in the one of the guys that found it, he died, but then the guy stole the rosary and then sold it to the girl's mom, and the guy supposedly possessed the body of the young lady and started bringing forth the writings of the lost gospel of the Book of Thomas. And then one of the guys at the Vatican that wanted to stop it came and tried to kill the girl.
Well, I've not seen the movie Stigmata.
Yeah.
You're not missing anything.
I loved it.
I loved it too.
There's one of those movies,
as always, with JJ and I.
There's one of those movies that has Whoopi Goldberg in it.
No. You're talking
that's
about
not in it.
Ghost?
No, it's Dogma.
That's the Lost Book of Swayze.
There you go.
That's a lost book.
It should stay a lost.
Lost Book of Swayze. That's fun.
It's funny. No, but I just remember the trailer of the movie, and they're in the Pope's office. I guess the Pope has an office. I mean, yes, of course the Pope has an office. There's some place where he takes meetings and all this. Yeah. And they're saying, well, I guess we just have to admit it. It's legitimate. I mean, it really is a part of the Bible or something like this. So, the Bible by definition is composed of the books that the Council of Nicaea said were the Bible.
Right. Exactly.
And
every faith has their own rights of canonization.
Correct.
It is not nearly, it's a fantasy to think that, all of these books are handed down by God. They're easily recognizable. We know these to be the absolute truth. No. It is, are these books theologically sound? Do they jive with each other? And are they widely recognized as being true testaments of faith? And those are just some of the criteria that have to be met. And I have hypothesized many a time why Jubilees and First Enoch are no longer considered to be canonical. But then that's not even including the heresy of all the quote-unquote Gnostic texts that have been penned, and the entire library of Nag Hammadi and blah blah blah.
Well, this is one of the things that's. Go ahead, Father Mike.
Well, sadly, one of the things that we've ran into is a lot of, just like JJ was saying, a lot of the different. I'm just going to say offshoots or denominations these days. I mean, we got a million of them that want to do their own thing. But it's surprising to me that so many have their own view of the Council of Nicaea. Well, it's not hard to follow. I mean, the Council of Nicaea in 325, they said these books are the closest there is. Some of them are redundant, some of them are repetitive, but a lot of the branches today don't want to see what's in black and white because they want to follow their own biblical thought. It wasn't until Martin and then we run into Martin Luther, and we get his view into it, and he tries to correct a lot of things, but then his followers come up and screw everything up that Martin Luther tried to do, and still run down this same rabbit hole of, well, we're gonna place this as Holy Scripture, but we're not this. And see, one case in point, a lot of the like I said before, I was the king of Protestantism. Okay,
well, could you take a second and describe exactly what is involved in being the king of Protestantism?
There's a crown, there's a scepter, it's a whole thing.
I know you mean something by that, but I don't exactly know what you mean.
Well, what I mean by that, Vic, is I can see both sides now, but I was once hardcore Protestant. I was once upon a time everything against Roman Catholicism. The term Catholicism was demonic.
Oh, in the South, it absolutely is.
That was that was the way that I was raised. Well, okay,
I would like to go down that rabbit hole.
Okay, well, I was raised that Catholics, and see, that's why I despise that term now, Catholics. I became very hardcore against anything that was Catholic, and it was just the way that I was taught in early seminary. And like we talked about a while ago about this abusive spiritual fatherism of the church, that this is what you believe. If you believe anything else, you're going to hell. Kind of like your story when you grew up in Louisiana. Everybody that's Catholic's going to hell. That's what the guy in the tent taught you guys that day, remember?
That's what the guy at the Church of Christ told me.
Exactly. So that's how I grew up in the beginning, and so that's why I say I was the king there at time. And at any rate, we were taught that everything from Luther forward was God.
Of God.
Of God.
Okay.
That's the only thing that mattered. Mm-hmm. And everything from Luther back was not of God because it was all messed up.
Okay.
And it took Luther's Reformation in his 95 Theses to straighten everything out, to bring back the authority of the kingdom of God, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and then after Luther, everything becomes silent. But then, if you're in the Protestant world and you really look at it, Protestantism really didn't get kicking forward per se until Darby.
Okay.
And then after him, it fell silent. And then all of a sudden in the late 1800s and early 1900s, that's when the true Protestant church began, because you had the Azusa Street revival and all of those early 1900 movements of God per se.
Well, you can't ignore the Anabaptist movement.
Well, the Anabaptist movement, we're going to get baptized 100 million times before we ever make it to heaven.
Oh, I know, but it was essentially the earliest incarnation of
exactly.
what the Protestant church became.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up. But when I say that I was the king of Protestantism, that was drilled into me. All these things that the Anabaptist movement, what's his name, J.J. Zwingli? Yep. Mm-hmm. That taught totally against, that said that infant baptism was heresy, that the real presence of God in Holy Communion was idol worship. This guy went
off the deep end
on Protestant. On early church father and tradition, and so we were taught in my early days of seminary that anything that was before Luther, mm-hmm. I'll go as far as saying that anything that was before Luther was nothing more than quote unquote religion of man. And it was, what's the word I'm looking for? Tradition. And anything tradition in the church was not of God, because it did not lead way to the Holy Spirit to have his way.
I guess I never knew church. It was quite that deep. I guess I would have thought there was reverence for Augustine and Aquinas
the quote unquote true Protestant church mm-hmm. despises the church fathers. The only quote unquote Protestantism church that will acknowledge Augustine and Irenaeus and Chrysostom and all the early church fathers are people like the Anglican Church, the Lutheran Church, the Presbyterian Church, although they place Calvin above them all for some reason. But those three, the Lutheran Church, the Anglican Church, the Presbyterian Church, and the early, and I'm going to say early, Methodist Church, when Wesley formed it, acknowledged the early church fathers and the tradition of the sacred church and scripture. Now, of course, we know now that the United Methodist Church has gone off the deep end. A lot of the Presbyterian churches have gone off the deep end. The Anglican Church has totally gone off the deep end and forsaken all of Holy Scriptures. It doesn't seem to me
like many of these churches really particularly care about theology anymore.
Well, see, that's the point at hand, and see when I started thinking differently, I had to go back to the early church and the fathers to learn about the sacraments.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened is, through my study, I found out that even all 7 sacraments, which it's a great teaching, I found all 7 sacraments in the very first book of the Bible as a type and shadow in Genesis. If you study it, you can find all the sacraments of the church. And then I went into a very deep study of Holy Eucharist. and throughout all of that, I found what this is strictly my opinion, okay? In my opinion, I found out what was missing from the quote-unquote kingdom of God today that once upon a time had us all in unity. Before the Great Schism, the church had 3 main streams. And if you look at the Garden of Eden, about the 3 rivers that flow from it, it represents, number 1, the charismatic, the evangelical, and the sacramental. And you can trace it even through the book of the Revelation according to John, of Jesus Christ. And what we found out, that when everything started splitting because different men got pissed off of each other who had ultimate authority, we started losing these different branches. So what happened is everything started splitting. All these different denominations started forming. Okay, we're going to acknowledge the charismatic part. Nothing else matters. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
And you have that today. Or you have the good Baptist folks, and I'm not knocking them. If it wasn't for the Baptist folks, a lot of people wouldn't be born again today. But
Correct.
the only thing that they're going to acknowledge is the evangelical part. Then you have the group that especially the quote unquote charismatic or the Greek Orthodox. Correct me if I'm wrong, JJ, but they acknowledge mostly the sacramental part.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so we have all this garbage going on, but it took that study to get me to the point to where I was recognizing everything else.
Well, can I throw one in here real quick?
Absolutely.
So I grew up in BFE, Tennessee, and I was taught that Catholics were idolaters. They ate babies.
Exactly.
Every other sin that you can think of. And in fact, if you've ever gotten the chance or the privilege to watch Moral Oral on Adult Swim from back in the day, it perfectly represents a lot of, especially in the Deep South, their attitudes against Catholics. And I, too, was a big believer in Protestant theology. In fact, in college, when I first read Karl Barth and Paul Tillich, oh my God, Epistle to the Romans, my soul finds such peace in that austere sublimity that he put forth. And Tillich is just transcendental if you can overlook his philandering ways. However, it took a moment of grace for me to even open my eyes. Like, I went into a Catholic church, and I think I've already said this before, but I thought I had bumped into somebody, and I turned around to say, "Excuse me," and it was an idol. It was. I'm not going to say idol, but it was of Saint Teresa. And I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God, I see an idol right in front of me for the first time. But I didn't get an evil sense from it. I felt peace. And that entire experience was nothing but peaceful. And from that point on, my heart was opened. And that's how I kind of found my way into the Catholic fold. But it took a lot of, in order to get me to sway even to that point, though.
Well, I'm still a foot in both worlds, right? As everybody pretty much knows.
Well, that's me too. I mean, I have a foot in both worlds.
Yeah, I'm a little more firmly in the Protestant side than you are. That foot's on fairly stable ground.
There you go.
I think that there's pretty clear views from Protestant perspective that are real iffy on the Catholic side in terms of Mary, the saints, idols, as JJ mistakenly, accidentally let slip the truth, and and I think there's a good foundation in some of that. Now, do I think that the Protestant side is correct in denying all tradition? No, I don't think that they are. But I think tradition is a lot of the way that heresy creeps into the church. And I think that it has done so very effectively. Dragging all of that back to the books. So as a Protestant, I had never even heard of the Apocrypha growing up. Right. It was never on my radar. Right. And so I purchased a Bible with the Apocrypha in it. And I've read about half of it at this point. But the first book I read was Tobit, and it was a fascinating book. I've yet to see anything in there that is super crazy controversial as to why they wanted to remove it. It does not make sense to me. Tobit's fascinating because you actually have one of the bigger stories of a demon having agency in the Bible. You don't have that hardly anywhere else, right? You have demons mentioned and they're cast out, but an active, ongoing oppression of a person, it was very, very interesting in Tobit. And I don't know why they would want to remove that.
Well, to me, the Book of Tobit is one of the most. And see, this is the point that I was going to get to a while ago, before I went down with Alice. But the Book of Tobit is one of the greatest books, in my opinion, of grace that I've ever read. I mean, it is, just like you said, we have glimpses of God's providence throughout all of the quote-unquote 66 books of the Protestant Bible.
Father Mike, because we have a pretty broad audience of people, can you give the 1 minute Cliff Notes overview of Tobit?
Oh, Lord.
If you can't, then I can get Avalon to do that.
Well, Avalon can do it, or Josh can do it.
Or Josh can do it, okay.
Yeah. Let me pass you to Josh. But at any rate, before we go there, let me give this 30 seconds. Because the Protestant world would have you believe from the last verse of Malachi to the first verse of Matthew that God was silent for 500 years. He was not silent. And that's where the Apocrypha comes in, especially Tobit and Maccabees and all the other books. But anyway, here's Josh.
So the Book of Tobit is one of my favorite books. But the first part of Tobit has to deal with funeral rites, almost in a sense, which was kind of led up into some of the events in it. But it has to deal with the Archangel Raphael coming down and meeting with Tobias and traveling with him. And there's a lot of healing that goes on. There's a healing of the family that he's eventually joined with. But there's also a healing of his father, who was blind as well. And as we know, Archangel Raphael is the angel of, the healing of God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is Tobit the only place that Raphael is mentioned in the Bible by name?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I'm going to have to defer to Josh on that, because I don't know.
So what I remember from Tobit was the so the story revolves around this woman, right, to a certain extent?
Yes.
Who is oppressed. Everyone she is to
she had
marry dies.
7 suitors, and they all died.
Right.
Oh, really?
Because of the demon Asmodeus.
Yeah, Asmodeus is killing off every possible husband that she could have. And so here you've got a demon actively oppressing someone. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about that is, from an oppression standpoint, you've actually got people dying as a result of that demon. And people like to think that, oppression can just mean some scratches and some sleepless nights. But, bad things can happen.
He's oppressing the sacrament of marriage as well.
Yes. And so you've got that aspect of it. You've got an angel coming down and taking the form of, what was it, her cousin? Or was it Tobias's cousin? I forget the...
No, it was... he just took the form of a man and became a traveling companion for Tobias.
Yeah, but here's an angel taking the form of a person and stepping in that role, pretending to be someone that they knew, which that's unusual, right? I mean, the only time I think you see that happening in other books of the Bible is way back, what was it, the 3 travelers on the road with...
oh, yeah.
Was it Abraham?
Yes. Abraham and Sarah, when the 3 travelers came, and that's when Sarah laughed because they told Sarah that she was going to have a child.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can't offhand think of any other instances where angels are actively pretending to be people throughout a narrative. Usually they're just enacting God's wrath. But then, and maybe this would be part of the reason they would want to remove it, but then you've got the whole fish guts solution, which is
the gall in the heart of a fish. Yeah.
Right. Creating a actual... what would you call it? Poultice or whatever, a way, to cure, to exorcise the demon out of her life, and so that she could get married to the guy in there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that happens in that book. It is a fascinating book, and it is a very active book from a demonology standpoint and angelology standpoint. Yeah. And so removing it from the Bible, I think, is very, very detrimental. Yeah. I think it removes a lot of active, what you would call interaction from God in people's lives.
Yeah. Well, it also shows how incense takes a role in exorcism as well, because when Raphael told him about it, he said to make an incense with it, to burn it in the room.
That's right, not a poultice. That's right. It was incense. Yep.
And then it would drive the demon away.
Yep. So it's a fascinating book, but when you look at that, all right. So the Apocrypha gets removed. So far, I haven't seen any really contradictory things to most Protestant beliefs that are in those books. And so I don't see value in removing them, and I think that it's a mistake. Those books have been in there. It's funny, from a Protestant side, people go, oh, well, those Catholics added a bunch of books that aren't in the Bible, when the reality is the Protestants removed the books.
The Protestants removed them.
They were always in the Bible.
Yeah, it was after Martin Luther did the 95 Theses, and like he did some good things, did some bad things. But what he did when he was retranslating the Bible, he took those books out for quote unquote redundancy, and also because it didn't fit his personal theology of faith alone.
Yeah.
He also tried to remove the Book of James, but couldn't find a good enough reason to. And there's even a statement that's recorded where he says that he wishes he could have chunked Jimmy, a nickname for James, into the fire.
Really? I did not know that. What was the animus against the Book of James? What did he find?
The animosity that he had against the Book of James is Luther. I mean, which we all know that salvation is a free gift, right? And but James would remind us that faith without works is dead, right? And what that means is our faith not being active in our life is worthless. That's what James is saying. But see, Luther took offense to that because he's faith alone. And we don't have to have any works. Well, you know what? Here's the deal, Martin. And don't get me wrong. I am pro Martin. I like a lot of the stuff that he did. Was he right in every aspect? No, but who is? But when you think of the verse, faith without works is dead, salvation is a free gift. Salvation can be given to David, okay? Without question.
I hope.
But see, David has a part in that is action. And that action, David, is you have to receive it. Mm-hmm. Think about that. So faith without works, faith without receiving is walking dead in faith. And see, that's even, I could tell you God loves you, right? That's faith. God loves you. All right. But you even have a part in that as well, David. And see, this is it. You have to allow God to love you for it to become effective in your life.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So in other words, faith without works is dead. And see,
well, I don't think that's the way they typically view it, right? So they view faith without works as if you are not actively going out and doing the good that is, promoted in the Bible,
yes,
especially in the New Testament, then you are not going to make it to heaven. And I don't think that that's the reality.
No, that is not the reality. But what is the reality of that whole statement? And people took it too far. what James is making reference to when he says faith without works is dead, he is backing up the words of Christ that says we will be known by our fruit.
Correct. So
our faith in our works is our faith in Christ in receiving that new covenantal relationship with God, but yet that fruit of that relationship showing in our lives. Thus, and hence the reason why I said that, number one, salvation is a free gift, but you have to receive it.
So without going too far down a rabbit hole,
okay,
I'll just make this statement from a Protestant standpoint. And you know, this is, anyway, John MacArthur talks about this a lot. When you are talking about faith and works, his perspective is the works will come with the faith.
Yes.
Okay. But the works are not required for salvation.
Correct. The
okay?
works.
And what we view the Catholic perspective is salvation cannot come without the works.
What the Catholic view is, what the Roman Catholic view is, and is their stance on that is true salvation. What was the key word I just said?
True.
True salvation.
Right.
Will become evident with fruit. They're not talking about you got to work your ass off to gain salvation, okay? The whole stance on that, and the whole stance of even the church fathers, is this: true salvation will be backed up with fruit or by your works. Or, as Vic and JJ and even you will understand this, that's why we repent every Lord's Day of our
sins,
fault, our word, and our deed.
Right.
Because we fell in that. However, we repent of that, and that repentance therefore shows our fruit of salvation. So that's the whole the Roman Catholic Church, they're not saying that you got to go out and be a missionary and save 1,000 folks every day and blah, 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 and hope you make it to heaven. Okay? They're not saying that. There's well, shut up, Mike. The whole thing is your fruit will show forth true salvation. And that's what it boils down to. That's all.
Now, back on the books again, the fascinating thing to me, and I know we all listen to a ton of podcasts, paranormal, some spiritual, mix of things. But on the paranormal side of things, so much that is talked about in stories that people have about whether it's Nephilim, whether it's some crazy conspiracies. A lot of this stuff is pulled out of the pseudepigrapha, JJ?
Yeah, pseudo, yeah.
Right?
Well, it comes from a combination of the pseudepigrapha and from some Gnostic texts, especially Manichaean texts. For example, one of the big ones that people love to harp on, and I just saw an idiotic TikTok video about this just the other week, was a reference about the Book of Giants, which is, you know, it is an original Aramaic text. We have remnants of it that came from the Dead Sea Scrolls, but it is most famously preserved in Manichaean texts, and it's a further elaboration upon First Enoch. And yeah, it's a lot of crazy crap you can find in those books.
Salutations! This here is Goofer. I'm the ethereal pest control expert. JJ wants to talk about the Book of Giants. He knows what the Book of Giants is all about. Probably everybody else knows a little bit here on the show, but lots of people, they don't know anything about that Book of Giants. When they heard JJ say Book of Giants, they were going, huh? Book of Giants? I ain't heard of that. Oh, so for them, I believe we need a very quick explanation about the Book of Giants. You see, it's kind of an expansion of the Book of Enoch. Let's just suffice it to say that back in the times before the flood, when God decided that he needed to destroy the earth through flood, he was not happy with what was happening down here. Part of the reason he wasn't happy is because these angels, they're going to call them watchers, came down, and they were extremely horny, shall we say. They found that just about everything on the face of the earth made them believe they needed to have sex with it. We're not just talking men and women, we're talking goats and pigs and cows and turkeys and wildebeests and other beasts in the field and wagon wheels and fire hydrants and you name it. Anything there that they could possibly figure out a way to have sex with, they decided they were going to have sex with it. Well, from the human women, they got what you call giants, or Nephilim, big old boys. They became aware over time that the Lord was planning on cleaning the house. He was going to send a flood, and all the giants and monsters and all those bad boys were going to be eliminated, shall we say. Well, this one giant, his name was Maui, he started having dreams. Very vivid dreams. And he dreamed about having the world wiped out while he was in it. And his time was coming to an end. So, after several nights of not feeling very well, waking up and being extremely unhappy, he goes out and he meets all the other giants and monsters. Yeah, they call them monsters. I guess that was what happened when you had sex with a wildebeest or something. And we're not talking just about, just standard sex. We're talking about, angel powers. Where they could make genetic hybrids of angels and watchers and women, maybe men, I don't know. So he goes off and he's having a big powwow with all these other giants. And they say, are you sure that's what's going on? How do you know that's what your dream is? And they argue and they fight. They, finally, one of the big giants, and his name is Gilgamesh. He comes and says, well, maybe we ought to go talk to that Enoch fella and see what these dreams are about. And they think that's a pretty good idea. And they go and talk to Enoch, and Enoch gives them a golden tablet. And the tablet that says, all right, listen, this here's the word of the Lord. You boys are hosed. I mean, hosed literally. Well, that's the Wilbur educational moment. I will now return you to the Paranormal Rundown, already in progress.
Well, JJ, speaking of that, years ago, I had a book. In the name of the book, I'm probably about to set you off, was The Lost Books of the Bible.
Yeah, I had that book too.
And I remember it was a black book. I can't remember, but anyway, one of the books in there, and when I looked at it, it kind of fascinated me. But was it the Gospel of Mary?
That's a Gnostic text, yes.
I don't remember it that well, but you got anything to say about that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I know very little about a lot of the Gnostic texts out there because that's its own degree program, and they kept us Second Temple people as far away from Gnostic texts as they possibly could.
Well, what about the Gospel of Thomas, or the infancy Gospels of Thomas? Was that considered a Gnostic gospel?
It sure is.
Huh.
And the book of Judas is right up there too, isn't it, JJ?
It is.
Yep. There you go, the Gnostic Gospels collection. Yeah, so there's just a lot of stuff when people are talking about these deep conspiracies and what's going to happen. It's not just Revelation they pull from. They pull from some of these other books, and there's some wacky stuff.
Oh, you got that bloody right. But can I just say this? I needed this grounding of not just talking to friends today, but also talking about spiritual matters in some of these books, because I had the worst sleep of my life last night.
Really? Why is that?
I dreamed of a female demon with flayed skin on her face that then proceeded to pull the flesh off of my own face and my hands.
Why do you think you had that dream?
I have no bloody idea. It was like a scene straight out of Hellraiser.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
All right, but, JJ, please allow me to interrupt you. When you said that, my spidey sensors went off. I think you had.
I don't like your spider sense.
Well, I don't either.
I got to be honest, mine did too. I mean,
I don't either sometimes. But please allow me to say this to you, and you can take it however way you want to. But I think it may strike a chord with you just as soon as you start explaining it and the way she looked and what she did. I think you need to take some time by yourself this evening and pray for your mom. I think this is a whole attack on your mom, and I think God was showing you this attack that wants to take mom out.
Well, she was resting on a pile of deceased and flayed bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God! And I would wake
wonderful.
up. Oh, it was awful. And I'd wake up and relieved. And I'd go back to sleep, and I was right back in it again. And
the same dream.
Yeah, and I could not escape it.
Does that happen to you frequently, JJ, where you enter back into a dream?
It never happens to me.
Well, that is a call to. That's just about exorcism 101. That's a call to warfare. That's what that is.
Well, I've never had such a detailed, like, I've dreamed of demons many, many a time, but I've never had such a crystal clear look, and to have her face directly in front of mine for such a prolonged period, and the shit she was saying to me is just, ugh. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail.
Oh, there's no reason. That's not derailing. That's talking about something critically important here. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a theologian. I'm none of those things. But I do observe really, really well. And when people go to sleep, the random number generator is reset. Okay? Your brain says, I don't, look, I got all this crap that I've thought about today and yesterday, and I'm just going to throw together some kind of dream. And I don't think the dream 11 of the night has anything to do with dream 2 of the night, usually. So when you're right back in that exact same situation, it seems like there's some other factor in play, some other element that's directing your mind to go back to that place.
It very well could be.
Whenever I've dealt with, let's call it, demonic influence of dreams, and dealing with the spiritual warfare aspect of it, the dream is exceptionally vivid over any others. There's a feeling to it that there's a reality that you don't get with most dreams. And I know that you get tons of nightmares, and that's your daily life. So if this felt way above and beyond that, then I would definitely take notice of it. And then you add to it the fact that it was continuous with waking up in the middle. That's another really, unusual sign. One of the things that I would do is I would, while it's still as fresh in your memory as you can, I would make notes I keep a journal of anything that happens to me that I think is spiritual related. And I would, put the date down and everything you can remember about that dream.
That's a good idea.
And then as Father Mick said, I would do some praying and, maybe a little splash a little holy water around and,
oh, trust me, I'm definitely going to be doing that.
Especially before going to sleep tonight.
Not trying to change topics.
JJ, when you're with Mom, can you do that in her home?
Do what?
Splash holy water around?
Yeah.
I would do that. I would definitely do that. If you need some, I'll send it to you.
Actually, I could use more, so I'd appreciate that.
Email me or Josh your address, and I'll do what. Oh, you got it? Okay. He and I will get it to you this week.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not changing topics, but before I forget, I just put Lost Books of the Bible up on high drive. There's a new directory under Paranormal Rundown called Documents. And
nice. Thank you, sir.
And it's got the Lost Books of the Bible up there.
Oh, and I do want to say one other thing. Going back to the whole Protestant discussion real quick.
Yeah.
At least in how it is practiced in the rural South, I can almost guarantee you that if you asked an entire series of Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist ministers what the differences are between those denominations, 95% of them would have no bloody idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Thank you for saying that.
Because there is no differentiation whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh, sure there is.
Oh, yeah. There should be, but yet the practicers have no idea. And you can almost ramp
He's
that
not
up
talking
to
about the lack of
99%.
differentiation. He's talking about the lack of the understanding of that differentiation.
Gotcha. If you ask people of today what the difference is, they couldn't tell you. But like I said earlier, if you go back to Zwingli, who was it besides Zwingli, JJ? There was another one. Oh, Lord.
Oh, I don't know.
Man, that's over 30 years ago of seminary. I can't bring it up.
You don't have it just right at the tip of your tongue? Come on, man.
Come on. Well, that's why I was... We may need Father Bob Wills on this. But the whole differences that took place way back then, nobody now could bloody tell you what they are.
I want to stick with the books for one more minute, or a couple of more minutes, if you don't mind. When I worked in an emergency department in Houston, one that I worked in, there was a doctor there, and heck, I don't care if I say his name. His name was Blackstone. And he carried around all the time, whatever chart he was working on, these were paper charts. He'd carry around, his stethoscope, and he always carried a book called A Course in Miracles.
A Course in Miracles?
A Course in Miracles. Or A Course of Miracles. Let me see what this thing is. Let's see. A Course in Miracles. Here we go. It's A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles. You can get it on Amazon. You can read the free online edition if you want to do that. But anyway, I never read it. He berated me every day I worked. It was like, oh no, Dr. Blackstone's here. He's gonna tell me that I'm losing my soul for not reading A Course in Miracles. Let's see. A Course in Miracles, also referred to as ACIM or The Course, is a 1976 book by Helen Schuckman. The underlying premise is that the greatest miracle is the act of simply gaining a full awareness of love's presence in a person's life. Schuckman said that the book had been dictated to her word for word via a process of inner dictation from Jesus Christ. The book is considered to have borrowed from many New Age movement writings. And
Dear Lord.
And the thing that he would say is he would get in my face. He said, Victor, listen, I need you to understand something. This is a required course. If you don't take it here, you have to take it there.
All right.
And he would hand me the book, and I would flip through it, and I would immediately get the whiff of New Age BS. And I don't know if you've come to understand how hard I try to be polite, and for how long I try to be polite.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's like, well, thank you for showing me that. I appreciate that. I'm sure it's very valuable. But right now I've got to go take care of these patients. So, but none of you guys have had any contact with A Course in Miracles.
Nope. Thank God.
And you're not feeling like you've really missed something there, JJ?
No, I'm not. And, it's amazing. All of these texts that people think are, the most important thing ever written. And if that's the case, then where do you draw the line? I haven't read the collected works of Emanuel Swedenborg. Am I, suddenly going to be going to hell because of that? I don't think so.
I'm not sure you want to take that chance.
This whole thing reminds me of what I talked about a long time ago about you talking about reading the Course of Miracles stuff.
Uh-huh.
That sounds like a lot of the charismatic world today, that if they read the book, and I said it before, Pigs in the Parlor, they're all of a sudden demonologists and exorcism experts.
What's the book called? Pigs in the Parlor?
Pigs in the Parlor.
That's a real book.
Oh, yeah. Look it up on Google. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, I'm not finding Pigs in the Parlor on Scribd.
I can find it for you real quick.
They've got the Pigs in the Parlor study guide. Boy,
that's the study guide. Yes, there is a study guide. Let's see.
Oh, looky here. Okay, so can anybody tell me, as I'm looking at this right now, who Frank Hammond is?
Hammond is a self-proclaimed prophet.
Okay, well, he's got here the complete list of demons.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, well, wait a minute. This is kind of fascinating. Okay, so here's the, it's all just human states. Okay, so the first demon is bitterness, resentment, hatred, unforgiveness, violence, temper, anger, retaliation, murder. Well, that's pretty wide. I mean, that, goes from unforgiveness, which I've dealt with, and murder, which I haven't dealt with.
Well, there's that one time back in '89, but I'm not going to talk about that here.
Then it goes to occult. We got Ouija board, palmistry, handwriting analysis, ESP, hypnotism, horoscope, astrology, levitation.
Dear Lord.
JJ, have you stopped levitating?
I haven't. I've been trying to quit. It's a bad habit, I know.
It's not as fun as it sounds.
You keep hitting your head on shit. It hurts.
Okay, I am now, as the progenitor of the Paranormal Rundown, hitting the F9 key. Bum, 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 bum.
Oh, I wanted to talk about tarot cards.
Oh, you want to talk about tarot cards?
Yeah, that was another topic on that list.
Yeah, sure. Grab it. Grab it. Go with it. I don't know a lot about tarot cards. I mean, I can remember an experience in Houston when a stoner buddy of mine came to me and said, "Hey, listen, I know you got some things you're going through. I got these cards here, and I can do a tarot reading on you, and I can tell you which way you need to go." And this was the guy who spent every dime of disposable income he had on weed. If he got paid and paid his bills and got some groceries and he had 19 cents left, he'd buy weed with it. If he had $1,900, he would buy weed with it. Weed was the most important thing in his life. And he was a tarot expert, or a self-proclaimed tarot expert. And I don't remember ever getting anything very valuable out of that. But maybe your experience is different, Dave.
Well, I don't use tarot cards. I've been around them. I've had readings done years ago just for entertainment purposes. But I'm assuming you guys are somewhat familiar with tarot cards, right? You've got
Oh yeah.
I think they're kind of cool. I mean, there's the what is it, wands and cups, and you've got the
swords and all that.
You've got the hanged man, and you've got I mean, they're pretty cool.
So we've had multiple discussions recently on divination. We've talked about dowsing and other forms of divination. So I'm curious how you guys think tarot cards work, because there are a lot of people that pay a lot of money to have tarot readings done. And you have these patterns that you lay out the cards, and they're supposed to tell you something. And there's a whole lot of cards now beyond tarot. You have oracle cards. I'll have to pull it out. I actually have another type of cards that are meant for spirit communication. But the fascinating thing to me is, in the end, you're shuffling a deck of cards. The cards are going to turn up the way they're going to turn up.
Correct.
Exactly. And
you asked the question, what do I feel about it? I can make it very simple.
Yeah.
It is either utter, complete horse crap, or it's one of these days, I'm going to hurt Father Birdsong. Okay, so let's go again. It is either utter, complete horse crap or evil. And almost always utter, complete horse crap. It's the same as kids just sitting around, making guesses. If there is really something bringing genuine information to the table, it shouldn't be doing that. And you shouldn't be participating in it.
I'm going to say the answer to what you just said for both of them. I'm going to say yes. It's utter complete
horse crap.
Yes. And evil. Yeah.
Well, yeah. The act itself is evil. But if you're getting anything really meaningful out of it, if there's anything that's bringing you real information.
Compare that with the Ouija board.
Right.
That's what I was going to say. Tarot to me that's another type of doorway that you should not be opening. But I do have a funny story about them, though.
Oh, good. We need some funny stories.
So I had just come home from high school, and I am not the most popular of ladies' men. I'll put it that way. But there was
because I am.
I'm not sorry. I met my wife.
And I think Dave is probably too. But
no.
But there was this one girl in high school that essentially stalked me. She really liked me. I did not feel this way about her.
Sad how that works.
But I came home from an all-male college for the summer. I was bored. I was lonely. And she kept pestering me for a date because she started working at the same place that I did over the summer. And I went, okay, fine. And so I had just bought a pack of tarot cards, and I brought them with me. I thought, hey, this would be at least some time to kill, right? I get there, we watch a movie, and then I bust out the tarot cards, and I start doing a reading. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just following the little instruction book that came with the cards. And I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying. I'm just... oh, it's this card. This is the explanation for it. This card. This is the explanation. Until I realized when I had finished talking, I have essentially fated us to be lost soulmates from across the eons. And I was like, oh my holy freaking God. No. This is not what I meant to go. And I quickly left because, and I still believe in this. I do not believe in like true physical intimacy unless you are just, you're committed. You want this to last for a long time. And I'm like, after nope, no more of this crap. And I got the hell out. I beat it out of Dodge.
And then he married her 3 years later.
I did not. No.
This was Netflix and divination.
Essentially, yeah, you're right. Although it's more Blockbuster and divination.
Or Blockbuster and divination.
Well, here's the thing. So this is one that I do fully put in the realm of divination, right? Well, we talked about dowsing. I think there's some question, right? It's more of a gray area depending on how you're using the dowsing, and what's going on there. But tarot cards to me, 100% in the divination, because it's being used almost always to tell the future, right? You are trying to find out what is something you should be doing, what is the state of your life, what is the state of your future, right? And the question becomes, how does that work? So I have this deck that's called Konxari. Konxari cards. It's actually a beautiful deck. It was designed by Paul Michael Kane, guy we investigated with a couple of times. He's a graphic artist, but he put this deck together, and they're all Konxari. He didn't design Konxari, he just designed the deck. But they have cards like, karma. It's got a skull on it. It's got a cellar. It's got light. They're all descriptive things. And the idea is that you mix up the deck and you lay it out and you ask the spirit to interact with it. And then you use what's on the face of the card to try to interact with the spirit. The spirit's trying to tell you something. And, maybe it died, the spirit died in the cellar with the candlestick, and it was General Custard. I don't know. So when I started doing this, I'm like, how is this worked? Is the spirit supposed to be directing the way that the cards get shuffled?
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be changing the face of the card before you flip it over? That's sort of a weird thought.
Well, it's kind of the same point that JJ and I was talking about in the beginning. It's just like trying to use a Ouija board, and regardless of what card pops up, the human psyche is going to look at that and make some sort of conclusion or decision on. I don't care if the card shows you in the bathroom taking a whatever. I mean,
an interesting thing for a spirit to do, but yes.
But seriously, that's how it works. But the
Konxari cards are a little more interesting in that I think there's less interpretation, because maybe there's some interpretation. It's no different than an obelisk. You get back words and you try to apply them to the situation. Tarot cards, on the other hand, who's reading the cards makes a huge difference, because they are interpreting. It's the interpretation of the cards that is the divination itself.
Well, I've never played it, so I'm not the expert, or even I shouldn't even be talking about it.
You're not a tarot professional. You don't have a big tarot light outside your house that blinks.
I know about tarot cards, but I've never done what I'm about to say. But Josh does it. Think about playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
You have an interpreter that is going to read this next card, so to say, or what's the other cards? Yu-Gi-Oh something. Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yu-Gi-Oh is a set of cards, but it's a math game.
I mean, exactly.
But they're prescriptive.
But what I'm saying is it's someone interpreting whatever the card is saying. And so when it comes to tarot cards, here's what I'm trying to say, Vic. If the death card comes up, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's up to someone's interpretation.
Right, and they'll almost tell you it doesn't mean physical death. It means death of something in your life, death. And so that is exactly. So first of all, that's where, Vic, as the super sensitive, cold reader of people, could take those cards and absolutely spin a yarn that would twist somebody's life into a knot, and they'd go, "Oh, you know so much about me. You're so accurate with this." But it's also where someone who is, we'll say psychic, is able to gather information from, quote, spirit, and tell something based on the way the cards are set up. My mom has had readings done before out in California with psychics, and the most accurate, if I remember, story she told me a long time ago, one of the most accurate people used a deck of playing cards.
Mm-hmm.
Not tarot cards.
Just regular cards.
Plain old playing cards. And it meant something to her. It wasn't the woman doing the reading. It wasn't that the ace of spades meant something specific. In that moment, as she's reading the cards, it was almost like an automatic activity, almost like automatic writing, right? Where something was happening from a psychic standpoint as she's going through the cards. It was just a mechanism. It was a tool to let her get in touch with the psychic impressions that she would get in doing the reading.
An organizing or focusing device.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Vic, with you growing up in Louisiana, I'm not surprised that you don't have a bit of wisdom on this.
Well, I got myself a mojo hand.
I mean...
I really don't.
I mean, especially with. Yeah,
I can remember being around people. Oh no! Look, I've been around the older people. And it's pretty much like the movies. I mean, everybody got a Greegree. That's the term. Everybody got a Greegree. And
what does that mean?
Everybody got a Greegree. It means everybody's got some little amulet or talisman or something that they use to try to control the world. Everybody got a Greegree. That's what they say. Everybody got a Greegree. I've been around people who talked about voodoo. I've been around people who talked about, I've seen both chicken and pig sacrifices where some old lady would go out there and chop the head off a chicken, open the chicken up, dump the chicken out, have all of the various chicken entrails on the porch of the home, which really made me happy, and would then tell you what was happening based upon the entrails of the chicken there on the porch.
Wow.
And I have no idea if she was gaining any meaningful knowledge from that at all. But she thought she was, and many of the people around her thought that she was.
It's no different than reading tea leaves or rolling bones, knuckle bones.
It's a little messier.
Yeah, a little smellier. Yeah, fair.
JJ, what about you growing up in the foothills of the Appalachians?
Nope.
Although
who here has actually had tarot readings as part of an official work outing?
Not me.
Not I. And,
no.
And that would really, that'd be a really rough one for me.
But that is becoming more common.
It was interesting.
Tell us about it, JJ.
All right. So wait. You got to tell this whole story.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tell us about
What'd you learn?
So even more surprisingly, this was while I was working for a contracting company and we were doing direct work for the American Chemical Society, of all places. But our little group, we went out, we were going to have like a happy hour work greet function. And for some reason, they decided to hire a psychic to staff this thing. And she was doing tarot readings for everybody. And I don't remember what the heck she said to me, but the funny thing is, and the thing that we all fixated on, was one of my really good friends who we hired into this company to work with us. He is a skeptic from hell. And he would not stop pestering and badgering this woman of, why do you think this works? What are you doing? This is the most ridiculous crap I've ever seen. I mean, to the point where I felt really bad for her. I'm like,
so he was behaving kind of like an ass.
Oh, he was being an absolute dick. Don't get me wrong.
Did she put him in his place by giving him a really good reading?
No.
What the little Louisiana woman would do is she'd have a chicken foot.
Put the mojo on you.
Look, I'm not joking. She would have in her. All of these ladies had these. Okay, so apparently now women are very happy when they get a dress that has pockets. That's apparently a big thing these days. Pockets. Well, all these little ladies back in the swamps of Louisiana, their dresses already had pockets, and they kept stuff in them. And in her pocket would have been a chicken foot, or I guess a rooster foot, with the claws and
had the claw, right?
Had the claws and had the claw and all that kind of stuff. And somebody would have wrapped gold wire around it, and there'd be some kind of hex bag with goofer dust, or there really was this stuff.
Goofer dust.
Nice. That's really
Hold on. What in the world is goofer dust?
Thank you for asking. I just didn't.
Well, I had to, man.
Goofer dust.
Well, look, I'm just going to go back to Supernatural. Dean asks, "What the heck's goofer dust?" And this guy who's being stalked by devil dogs or hellhounds said, "You think you know something about the paranormal world? You don't know what goofer dust is?" Goofer dust is a traditional hexing material and practice of the Black American tradition of hoodoo from the southern United States. It has, so it's hoodoo stuff.
Hello, everybody out there. This is Cedric Dankworth Smythe. I bring you now a public service announcement from Wilbur, the ethereal pest control expert.
Salutations, everybody. This here's Wilbur, the ethereal pest control expert. You see, I got me an idea from my buddy Dave Griffin. He was talking the other day about that goofer dust, and I told him, I said, Dave, that goofer dust doesn't always work all that well. Sometimes them demon dogs and hellhounds and all them satanic vine worms and everything come through anyway. And he said, well, that's because you're using the wrong thing. Wilbur he said, you don't want goofer dust. You want gopher dust. Come on, follow me. Took me down behind the house there, and they had a whole gob of gophers. And, they're a little hard to catch and kind of fast. But anyway, we caught us some gophers, and we dehydrated those puppies, and we turned them into gopher dust. Ha ha! You ought to see them hellhounds run now. Oh, that Dave. He's the ethereal pest control expert extraordinaire.
Hello again. This is Cedric Dankworth Smythe. I now return you to the Paranormal Rundown, already in progress.
You can get a pouch of it on Amazon for $4.99 from Madame Yaya's.
What a deal. Okay.
Madame Yaya's Goofer Dust.
All right, so
I'm sorry, but I can't get away from what JJ said. Madam's goober dust.
So she whips out her.
Look, if this guy had been being an ass to this woman, she would have whipped out this rooster claw that she had been carrying this thing around for years and years and years. It was a well-worn rooster claw. And it really did have a hex bag at the end. And I can remember asking, what's in there? Oh, that's Goofer Dust, child. And, there's Goofer Dust in there. You're a good boy. You don't need to worry about that. Goofer Dust. And she would have done something like, I don't have a claw here handy. But she would have done something like, hold this thing up to him and say something like, "Get thee away from me." And she would have had that thing pointing at his face, and she would have had a look on her face like, if you don't get thee away from me, thee are going to have some problems.
Something's going to fall off.
And I mean, if you guys think I'm lying here or joking, I mean, I'm not.
No, I totally believe you.
She would, and nobody who knew that woman would have ever jacked with her in any way. And, let's say her name was, Mrs. Markham. And they were all something like Mrs. Markham or something, and, or Mrs. Delacroix. I like that better. Mrs. Delacroix. They would come over there and say, "Mrs. Delacroix, would you like some help picking your pecan trees? Mrs. Delacroix, do you need somebody to fix your window? Mrs. Delacroix, is there something wrong with your door?" They wanted to be in her good graces.
Oh, I bet.
They wanted to be in
I
her.
would too.
Hello. Yeah,
They didn't want the Goofer Dust treatment.
That's right.
Hey, all I know about chicken feet is that they made the absolute best spaceships when I was a kid.
Wait. All right, this is a really weird rundown, but
I am trying to visualize this.
But look, I think we've got a title though. Chicken feet make the best spaceships.
Oh, I like it. Yes.
All right, but I got to hear about chicken feet spaceships.
All right, so when I was
Hold on, JJ. Hold on. Josh has got me dying over here.
How's that?
So
all this Goofer Dust and Goober Dust, Josh said that's one hell of a crop dusting, ain't it?
I like the humorous tint this is taking.
This is great.
So growing up, we raised chickens. We raised a lot of chickens.
Uh-huh.
And, I have seen my fair share of beheadings that would take place of chickens because they would then
it's
wind
great
up on our
entertainment.
dinner.
I'm sorry. I know that we're going to make somebody mad, but the day that you behead several chickens, that's an entertainment day.
Oh, it is. And I've done it. I mean, I've, plucked the feathers. I've dunked their bodies into hot water and plucked the feathers off from them. But anyway, after you chop the head off, they stop running around, blood spurting everywhere. Then, and you then defeather them. You cut the feet off, and they would give them to me. And so the claws section would be the thrusters for the spaceship.
Uh-huh.
And then the part that was cut off, that is then the helm of the spaceship. And whoo, that's what would go flying through space. And it was awesome. I love that. Still have many a fond memory of playing in the dirt with chicken feet.
People just don't understand it growing up with their electronics today. The things we had to do to entertain ourselves.
But there was never a point when we weren't entertained.
This is
Accurate.
very true. Very true. Now I've just got an image of JJ sitting in the dirt. Shh. One chicken foot fighting the other.
Oh, gosh, y'all killing me.
Here comes the SS Chicken Foot.
The SS.
But now I have learned that the greatest thing that makes spaceships are remote controls.
That's because you get angry with them and throw them across the room.
Hello.
Accurate. But yeah, it's I grew up with Star Blazers and Battleship Yamato, and so everything became part of that series. But anyway,
Well, back to Mrs. Markham though. Believe me, I had no feeling that she was any danger to me. I don't know that she was a danger to anyone who wasn't a danger to her. I think her view of the world was that she was there with certain abilities and powers and knowledge to bring good. I really do think that's what she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not there were forces in the universe that could corrupt that intention on her part, I don't say that's not possible, but I don't think that's what she wanted to do.
Well, I mean, people from that part of the world, there are, two distinct flavors. There is Fokar, and then there's Hondor. And if you're a Hondor practitioner, then you are definitely on the up and up. But it doesn't mean that you don't have particularly nasty tricks in order to thwart or foil those who actively mean you harm.
Which one of you guys was talking about going? It was Father Mike talking about going into the voodoo store off of Bourbon Street. Yeah, off of. Yeah.
Yeah, that got me. Ooh, I remember that like it was yesterday. When we got to the very beginning of that, I'll just call it strip area.
Yeah.
From there to the end, I felt, terribly ill. I was sick I felt like death on a cracker, as we say in the South. It was bad. Nausea, vertigo, terrible. But just as soon as we left that area, I was fine.
Look, I have spent my fair share of time in metaphysical stores, New Age shops, bookstores, crystal shops, for years. To this day, we'll wander into them if we're walking around somewhere. And almost all of them have, a back room where they'll do some sort of Reiki or meditation sessions or readings, stuff like that. Most of them are fine, but some of them you walk into and there's a dark feeling. There is an oppressive feeling.
Yes.
When you're in there. And I think generally those are the ones that practice some of the darker rituals. And you can feel it. You can feel it walking in from the minute you walk in the door until the minute you walk out. There's a pressure on your head. You get a little bit of maybe a headache, pain in your back or whatever. And it's something palpable. It's something you can tell.
Well, where's that coming from, Dave? Is there kind of the spirit of the hoodoo shop that's just sort of waiting for prey, and you're prey when you go in? I'm not talking about something that wants to kill you. I'm talking about something more like a parasite, like a mosquito that says, well, if he's coming into my realm, I'm going to get me some blood.
Well, it's kind of like it. Well, go ahead, David.
Well, I would say that from my perspective, there's two possibilities here. One is there's obviously paranormal things that can be done with ritual, meditation, whether it's witchcraft or whatever other practice you have. Things happen. It's not like this stuff is not real. There's some energy that is at play when these things are being done. And I think that we can be sensitive to that energy. We can feel it. If it's very positive, you get a positive feeling. If it's very negative, you get a negative feeling. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that this negative stuff is being done with support from the demonic, and you can feel the demonic when it is around. Unless it is trying to hide itself from you, it is a feeling that you can recognize.
Well, you mentioned a very key word that struck me just a few moments ago, and I love the way that JJ portrays this as well. He mentions the demonic as a parasite, that will latch on and refuse to let go. And so when you walk into these certain areas, it's kind of like a positive energy that's all of a sudden overwhelmed by negative energy, and they're just not going to go well together. And and to put it in a scriptural realm, it is sin nature versus the nature of Christ. And so when those two come together, there's going to be some type of fight. And in that fight, depending on what side we are mostly on per se, we could even feel not only emotionally, not only spiritually, but physically of this great battle that is trying to take place in our midst that we don't even know what's happening. Here I was, a young seminary student, okay, trying at that time to become hopefully this good person, and then all of a sudden I'm introduced and overwhelmed in a negative, evil type setting. And my being couldn't overcome it at that time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you had not developed the defenses
exactly.
you need.
And that's why I became ill.
Mm-hmm. Here's a different way of looking at that. So I know, Father Mike, you and I have talked about this to some degree, but I view the demonic as viral. Okay, I think that not everybody who sins or opens doors is going to wind up having the demonic, boom, right there. You screw up, the demonic's there pouncing, right? I view that the things that we do in our life affect our spiritual immune system. Okay? And the more doors we've opened, the more sin we do, the more of a beating our immune system has taken. And then when you are in the presence of the demonic, it's like a virus. The stronger your immune system is,
very good analogy,
the less likely you are to be latched on and have that parasitic entity follow you home. Mm-hmm. The weaker your immune system is, the more likely you are to have the demonic influence in your life. Mm-hmm. And that sense of getting a headache, that sense of feeling nauseous, may very well be a part of your spiritual immune system alerting you that there is something here you do not want to be around. Just like the negative feeling you feel when you walk into that metaphysical store, you go, this is one I don't want to be around. I'm not quite ready to handle this right now. It's your immune system going, alert, alert, alert. It's running that low-grade fever.
And see, when I finally got away from that situation, that's when I understood it. Just like you said, so this is what was going on. That's why I fell ill, because my immune system, as you're talking about, was firing off big time and saying, you got to get out of here, boy.
Whereas if your immune system was just totally beat down, you might not even notice it. You might not even notice it's there. You're just oblivious to it. So
who's got a topic, instead of trying to find it randomly, who's got a topic that isn't too deep or too deep in theology or too deep in horror that we can end this thing out with? I kind of have one, but you're going to laugh at me.
Go for it.
What'll be new?
Okay, well, what, laughing at me?
Yeah, that's just a normal rundown. That's fine.
Nobody's ever laughed at me, yeah.
We laugh with you, Vic.
I want to do a rundown one night on Alice in Wonderland. We keep talking about Alice going down the rabbit hole.
We talked about Alice going down the rabbit hole.
We should do that.
We should
I know something interesting. Okay, so you know the Cheshire Cat.
Uh-huh.
Okay, where the all they see is the smile, and that smile disappears. Well, the Carroll family was a wealthy family in the part of England where I guess they lived in London. And back then, if you were a wealthy family and you paid heavy dues to the church, or heavy tithes to the church, they would assign a place for you to sit. There was a place where that family was supposed to be. Father Birdsong is looking at me like, yeah?
No, I'm just thinking. I find that quite fascinating.
But
yeah,
I thought maybe you thought I was lying, but this is what. Anyway, so
no, that's true today. I mean, we've all run into people. If you walk into church some Sunday morning and you've been there 100 years, and somebody's sitting in your pew, you're gonna get upset.
Well,
especially in the South.
So
that's very true. You know, when I talk about Monumental Church, one of the places we've investigated, there were EVPs from there, Vic.
Yeah.
They had Poe's pew. Where
oh, really?
When Edgar Allan Poe
yeah.
was there, that was his pew. Nobody else sat there. That was for him and whoever was with him.
Him and his family. He didn't have anyway. So historians went and found where the Carroll family sat. And they kind of figured out how tall Lewis Carroll would have been. And they started looking at all the various ornate carvings on the front of the church. And it turns out that when you stand up for certain parts of the surface, you can see the cat and the smile. And as you sit down, it kind of fades away. And so their thought is that probably he spent years and years as a child standing up and seeing the cat. And then sitting down, and the cat.
What was the cat?
The Cheshire. It was a carving. It was a carving on the. It was an ornately decorated church, and there was a carving up there.
What an unusual thing to carve in a church. It was a cat. I don't know if I've ever seen.
Well, they've got all kinds of things carved in churches. Gargoyles.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
a lot of churches do it in memory of very prominent members.
Mm-hmm.
So with Carol, it would be the Cheshire Cat from Cheshire Cat.
Cheshire Cat.
Yeah. From
his
Alice's
position,
Adventures.
he just saw that over and over again.
Right.
And that's where it came from.
And believe me, if I were a weird little kid sitting in the church, I was like, oh, there's a cat. Oh, cat's gone. There's that cat again. Ooh, cat's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have kept myself entertained the whole service.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
By watching this cat.
But yeah, I mean, after the many episodes that we've done, and we always talking about going down a rabbit hole, I've become fascinated for some reason with Alice in Wonderland.
I have so many references. So many references to it in culture.
But even from the very beginning, when she falls down the hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on forever. And she fell down and down and down and down and down and down. How many times does it say? And down
and down and down, yeah.
And I mean, I'm like, okay, all right, I get that. That's starting to make a lot of sense. And then she gets to the little room and she can't get through, what is it, the door or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And then
she's too big for it.
She's too big.
Yeah. But then she takes what is it, water or something?
It's a tonic.
Some kind of tonic, that says drink me,
Uh-huh, yeah.
I mean, we could take this 15-second preview and go on forever on it.
I've never read the book. I've only seen the animated movie.
Right. Well, I started listening.
And that was years ago.
Yeah, I started listening to the audio book, and you can find it for free. It's pretty
interesting. You can
interesting.
find it for free.
Yeah.
I heard JJ, in something he wrote recently, use the term Vorpal blade. Or Vorpal band? Yeah, you were talking about the band of righteousness.
Oh, the brandlet.
Bandlet of righteousness.
Bandlet of righteousness, yeah. And then you, somewhere in there, you said Vorpal Bandlet.
Sounds like a D&D thing. Or Badge of Righteousness is what I would expect to find, like in World of Warcraft or...
When I was in junior high, there was this very nerdy girl who was way the heck out of my league. Not really physically or intellectually, just financially. And that her family was incredibly wealthy. But she loved Lewis Carroll. And I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to memorize the Jabberwocky poem. You guys know the Jabberwocky poem?
Snicker snack.
No, 'twas brillig and the slithy toads did beguire and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogroves and the momraths outgrabe. And it goes on like that. It's a great poem. It's really fun to say. Lots of fun words. But everybody's looking at me like, oh man, Vic's gone down to the weird part of Thanks again.
He's falling
right.
down and down and down.
JJ, so what I asked was, does anybody have a topic we can use as a closeout that isn't real heavy and isn't real religiously based and any of that kind of stuff? I kind of had one, but it's very weird.
I don't. In fact, I am pretty much wiped.
You're wiped? Okay. Well, we don't even have to do that.
If we could avoid it. The back of my neck has been killed. Like, I woke up with the back of my neck just murdering me, and it's just gotten progressively worse as the day has gone on.
Have you ever woken up where you can't move your neck?
No.
I have. And I know Dave
does
has.
not sound fun.
You know, and so I can remember going to the ER in Houston one time, and the ER where I worked. I said, look, I can't move my neck. I woke up like this. And it was a new doctor, and he said, I could hear him outside. He said, we got a druggie in there looking for drugs.
Oh my gosh.
Man, I just love ERs. They just...
And all I wanted was a muscle relaxant, like Soma or something, to relax the muscles. And, all right, gentlemen.
All right, Father Mike, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
In dealing with people who are going through oppression and demonic attack, how often do you see pains in the back, upper back, in the back of the neck?
The neck in the back, especially let me correct this. The neck and the top of the what's it called, Vic? The
thoracic.
The thoracic.
Mm-hmm.
Between the shoulder blades up high.
And then the very bottom of the lumbar.
Well, it goes cervical, thoracic, lumbar.
Yeah, but
sacral.
Most of it is the neck, the top of the thoracic, or the lower of the lumbar. That's where I've seen it most.
In almost all the instances where we have had problems on an investigation, JJ, the pain is in the upper thoracic, the very base of the neck. Mm-hmm. Given your dream last night, I would pay particularly close attention to that.
Yep.
That's a good observation.
And that's, that goes back to the part of the reason, JJ, that I said that was a cry for warfare. So take that seriously, please.
All right. So maybe a really, really short topic. So Josh just made a comment on Discord that these are common points of entry. Father Mike? Points of entry, really the concept of physical points of entry in the body for the spiritual or demonic.
That's a good concept, yeah.
Well, yeah. And to make it very short, the only way that I could put it and make it short without going very deep diving into it is everything that happens in our life in the spiritual and emotional will sometime without fail manifest itself in the physical. And whether it be pain, one of the worst one of the worst things that happens to people that are suffering demonic attacks is just about every type of arthritis and cancer. And if you look that up, you could find that to be very true. Even science has proved that people who have dark times, they can fall victim to several types of cancer. I can't explain that. I mean, science will even tell you people that have a lot of bitterness and anger in their lives are more susceptible to cancer. I can't explain that. But the only thing that I can explain is that everything that, if you are in a very spiritual warfare time, it's going to affect you emotionally and then finally physically. Because the enemy wants to do one thing, as that parasite that JJ mentioned, it wants to take you out and it does not want to let you go.
Yeah, the reason I ask is there is this, you don't think of demonic attachment or spirit attachment, even if you're talking something like, just a ghost or whatever, you don't think of them as needing a physical way to make that attachment. But very often it does seem to be like something is present behind you, latches onto behind you. You get feeling in your upper back. You feel pain in your upper back. Whatever. There does seem to be some physical to it that is not just, a spiritual connection.
Well, yeah, you find that in Japanese culture as well, actually. Mm-hmm. If someone is complaining about shoulder pain or upper back pain, then people who are supposedly very sensitive to seeing these things can actually see the spirit, like, riding on their shoulders or weighing them down physically. So,
yeah, I think that's common across cultures. I think that is a commonality. So I have added that as a deep dive into the rundown backlog.
Awesome. Well, you can actually even ask yourself this question. What we just discussed here in the last 5 minutes, is that not any different than Christ being tempted in the wilderness physically by being hungry? And Satan saying, well, turn these stones into bread.
Turn these stones into bread.
Mm-hmm. Think about it. I mean, that's just food for thought. No pun intended.
No pun intended.
But
well, and that was a perfect kind of time to bring that up, considering that at least while we're recording, this is Lent. So,
well, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
That's right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, guys, I want to echo what JJ said. He's been going through a lot lately. You guys know that I have, and this has been. It's been a wonderful time for me too. I really needed today. I really needed it.
Amen.
I agree. Okay, I'll be ending the interview or the discussion, and I guess that's episode 17?
18.
But before you go, Vic, what was your weird topic? I'm dying to know.
I am too.
Okay, well, yeah, but you see, you might be so tempted. You'll say, you're going to say, I don't care how tired I am, how much my neck hurts. I got to talk about that. Black clawed slug goat grabbers.
Yep, no temptation whatsoever. God love you, man. I swear, I needed that.
I'm looking at Father Birdsong's face right there, and he's saying, oh, man, he had to bring up the goat grabbers. All right, guys. Look, at some point, I actually would like to talk about the clawed black goat grabbers. Because
let's do that next time.
There's a video that you're going to look at this video and you're going to say, what in the hell is that thing? All right. I will talk to you guys.
Because I can also bring up the White Bluff Goat Man.
Oh, good. Yeah,
All right, so
we could do like a whole goat episode probably.
There you
Ooh,
go.
I like it.
All right, so goat episode. And I have the black clawed.
Here we go. It's hang on, let me get it right. Let's see. Black clawed slug goat grabbers.
That's pretty awesome.
Man, the stuff that bounces around in your brain. Okay, and JJ, what was yours?
The White Bluff Goat Man.
All right.
Well,
Awesome.
on
the log.
I think. I mean, the bottom
That's
line.
awesome.
The
All
bottom
right.
line, Dave, is in my mind or in the deep parts of Victor's brain. I'm still really kind of in 5th grade, and
And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
so.
Well, I'm not smarter than the 5th grader, so
All right, guys, I'm going to end the show, and I'll talk to you guys later.
sounds
All right.
great.
Have a
Take
good
care,
one,
guys.
y'all.
Bye bye.
We have Dungeon Talk this evening. Actually, 3 titillating segments of discussion and information that just didn't quite fit into the rest of the show. We start off with JJ, talking about the best Japanese coffee in all of Japan. Well, where else?
Actually, y'all got time for one more show and tell?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Behold,
Wait.
Max Coffee.
the greatest bottled coffee that Japan makes.
Okay.
My eldest daughter returned from Japan this week, and she brought me 10 bottles of this stuff. And
Why does it say
is
Georgia on it?
Georgia is actually the company that makes it.
Oh, okay. I was saying I might have to go out and buy me some of that and try it, but I don't think I will.
In Dungeon Talk segment 2, Vicar Manson shows off his Southern preacher charismatic skills. He's really good at it.
The charismatic church has somehow forgotten the Holy Scripture. That, I mean, we have what's called the powers, the principalities, and the rulers of darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's spelled out in Scripture, but for some reason, the charismatic world wants to label everything that goes wrong in everybody's life some kind of demonic spirit and label it with some kind of new name. And these guys were even talking about quote unquote marine spirits, like water spirits, but they're called marine spirits now, and octopus spirits and octopus
What
demons.
was that last one?
Octopus.
Lots of tentacles.
Lots of tentacles. Okay.
I'm like, what?
They latch on tight. Well,
I mean-
this is the problem. When people look at the satanic panic, okay?
Yeah.
This was the problem with it.
That's a great word. Say that again. Satanic
panic, right?
I
When you-
like that.
When
I've
you go
never-
back and look at that era, I've read books about it. I've got a book on it where this guy, and he's from north of me, between like St. Augustine and Jacksonville, and he wrote this book, and it's like when you're doing deliverance, he starts casting out the demons, and there's hundreds of demons in these people, right? And every single demon is literally just named the name of the sin the person was committing. It's like,
Exactly.
oh, well, we've got the
lust
demon of
demon inside
ego,
of you.
and we've got the demon of lust, and we've got the
You got the demon
and
of
it's
gambling.
Exactly. That's
That's what I'm
exactly it.
talking about.
And
And
that's
they're-
where they take it too far.
And they're teaching these guys this garbage, and they're self-proclaiming themselves apostles and prophets that don't know their rear end from a hole in the ground. And I mean, my God.
I've spent enough time studying speech and how to be in front of a crowd, and and I've got some charisma. I mean, I could do the. All right, I'm commanding this demon of lust to come out.
Hello.
Right?
I know, right? I mean, come on.
And
Oh, you have got to do a Trailer Trash Tears episode as a Southern charismatic preacher.
Oh yes, that would be awesome.
That is a perfect episode with some fiction in it. That'd be fun.
And finally, in Dungeon Talk Segment 3, the lads discuss, rather briefly, Jim Jones, Powers Booth, and the Jonestown Massacre.
By the way, I gotta say, this is the perfect chance for me to interject this. So I've been playing Helldivers 2, and you get to name your ship. My ship is named the SES Leviathan of Destruction.
Hello. There you go. Josh said that's awesome, JJ.
That's better than just a regular Leviathan.
I mean,
but if Josh is playing, we gotta squat up sometime.
Yes.
He said yes. Where's your microphone, son? Oh, it's.
Have you guys ever read?
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys.
Or watched, because there was a great movie made of the event, or listened to the original tapes of Jim Jones.
Oh man, I've heard some of it. He could talk the panties off of anyone.
Well, he didn't even need to, but yes, he could. Yeah, Jim Jones was.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did. But
that was out loud. That was in your outside voice.
All of those tapes of Jim Jones telling his audience or telling his people, like, we're here, the communistic, revolutionary, all this kind of crap that he was talking about.
Right.
And then the day when he was like, children, come down slowly and quietly, please don't make it, when he's saying, basically, come and drink some cyanide.
Yeah.
Well, they did a movie with Powers Booth as Jim Jones. And Powers Booth was a better Jim Jones than Jim Jones.
Really?
I mean...
What's the name of the movie?
I think it's the Jonestown Massacre or Massacre at Guyana or something like that. It's got power. If you type in Powers Booth Jim Jones movie, it'll probably come up. It's a very good movie to get that point across. And Powers Booth was just astoundingly good. Hello, everyone. This is Vic Hermanson. One of the hardest parts of editing and getting a podcast out is figuring out some kind of reasonable ending. How do you end the show? Do you just say, hey, hope you enjoyed the show, it's over, come back next week, or next month, or whenever? I don't know. I'm a perfectionist. Paranormal Rundown is a labor of love for all four of us. So I spent a lot of time thinking about how do you do something like end a show? So I started to wonder when the word paranormal was first used. According to Wikipedia, it was 1905 in a translation of a French document. But the first use I can find of it in a newspaper, and for me newspapers are kind of the voice of the land, the voice of the people, was 1928 when they're talking about a Colonel Ladowski from Poland who had a dog named Bim, a big brindle bulldog, a BBB, who could count and multiply and subtract and add and divide. So Colonel Ladowski would be on stage with the beloved Bim, and he would ask in Polish, Bim, what is 7 times 2? Bim would bark 14 times. So I guess necessarily they had to keep the questions relatively simple. I mean, how many audiences want to sit through 144 barks? Hey, Bim, how much is 12 times 12? Well, Bim would be barking for a while. I think it was probably sometime in the 40s that the word started to become something commonly used. Now it's used so much that it doesn't even really have a meaning. Paranormal can mean anything from unusual animals to unusual aerial phenomenon to ghosts to mind reading, anything. That's why it's such a ripe field for a podcast. There's just never a lack of things to talk about. Paranormal Rundown is jointly produced by myself, Vic Hermanson, Father Michael Birdsong, Dave Griffith, and J.J. Johnson. The opening theme music was by Lobo Loco, and any music we use elsewhere in the podcast is generally from Smart Sound, or simply so old that it's in the public domain. We do occasionally use media clips, and when we do, those are used under the protection of the Fair Use Doctrine. It's a very handy thing. There's one more episode of the Paranormal Rundown to come in the first season. That will be 20 episodes, and I think we've decided that's going to be the length of a season. Then we'll take a few weeks off. If you're the kind of person that listens to the Paranormal Rundown, we'd probably like to have you as a guest on the show, especially if you are someone who carries opinions differing from our own. We don't want an echo chamber. I mean, all four of us are quite theistic in our view of the world. We think it'd be excellent to have some atheists, some materialist reductionists, people who see the world simply in black and white, in terms of why the things that occur actually occur. You can contact us at feedback@paranormalrundown.com. We would be extremely grateful if you would rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to it. That actually helps us out more than anything else. So, until May 1st, 2024, this is Vic Hermanson, signing off for the Paranormal Rundown. Thank you so much for listening.